Was it just me, or were there people like this week? Having a difference of opinion. That happens every once in a while, doesn't it? I try to avoid just even knowing what's going on out there, which could be somebody sticking their head in the sand, I suppose. But I'm daring to talk about it today, and I won't go into a lot of detail on a large scale. But let's see if I understand this correctly. There was at least one kind of right-wing conservative ultra activist speaking at his own rally and was shot and killed mid-sentence. And people were kind of torn between not wanting to promote the violence or giving approval to the violence, but also not wanting to promote the speaker and the ideals that I don't know if I'd even call them ideals. They were, oftentimes his regular rhetoric was about bias and prejudice and hatred and just really hurtful words to a lot of people in the country. And so there's people trying to figure out how to be in that situation where they hate this, but they don't want this for them. Anybody see any of those stories or articles or have that experience yourself? Yeah. This was also the week that we observed 9/11. And one of the things that always sticks out for me at that season is to remember, certainly we care about everyone who was killed in that terrorist attack. But something else that became visible to me was realizing that America wasn't as loved by other countries as we thought we were, right? Or in that experience, people began to take on a hatred or a prejudice towards the Muslim nation right here in our own country, and still do. So every time we honor or observe that anniversary, that comes up for some of us, feeling that clashing again. And, if you paid attention to local news, you heard that ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, moved into Chicago, ready to arrest immigrants who are undocumented, at the same time that a large part of the Latino community in Chicago wanted to be out celebrating their Mexican Independence Day festival. So there's probably some clashing going on right now. Am I safe to do this? Can I enjoy this holiday? And all of that kind of lines up with what we've been talking about over there on the wall, open-mindedness. We've got some more contributions up there on the wall that people are sharing with us to help us remember what open-mindedness is about. We started by talking about being open-minded about what God is, and open-minded about death, and open-minded about our own individual selves. But today is probably one of the most important topics, and that's being open-minded with other individuals, especially when we have a difference with one another. And most of the time, our humanity wants to go through life wishing everybody would just be like me. Isn't that easier when they all think like me? So today when I talk about differences with others, I'm not talking about those who are committing crimes or abuse. I'm talking more about just those everyday differences where we make different kinds of choices from one another. We have a different way of being from one another. And yet we can still get pretty ticked off about it, right? If there's somebody who does things differently, then it's pretty easy for us to get the energy churning in us, and it's hard to open our minds. Can you think of some reason why the ego does not want to open our mind to somebody else? What's its fears? Safety? Rejection? The unknown? Conflict? I think a common one, too, is that, if I'm good to them, they might take what's good for me. There may not be enough to go around. And so we kind of shut down. Or if we just have different morals or values from one another, the way that you live, I don't approve of, I can't open my mind to that. I have to stand my ground. Because if I let you live the way you want to live and it's different from me, I don't know what we think will happen. What will we think will happen? Yeah, it's kind of confusing, isn't it? We just know we can't let them do that. And a lot of times if we say, okay, you can have your way, then it's like admitting that they're right, which means I'm wrong. We can't have that. I can never be wrong. Sound familiar? So just keep in mind that whenever there's some negative energy coming up between us and someone else, for ourselves, I'm just going to offer that there could be some form of what we call error belief in our consciousness that's standing behind our own behavior. Like they hold my good in their hands. They have power over me. There's only so much limited good. If they decide that I can't be the way I want to be, then I'm in trouble. There's beliefs about how we can't both win, and I depend on you to make sure that I get what I need. And that rarely works out when you think differently. So now we've got this error belief going that's driving this behavior, which is just adding to the clash, deepening the divisiveness between us. And for me to come in and say, could you just open your mind for a minute? It's like, are you crazy? That's too threatening. So how do we convince ourselves to open our mind? There's three main scenarios, I think, that are an opportunity for us to do that I want to go through today. The most obvious one is when we do get into conflict with one another. So it could be the form of conflict where I don't like the way you vote, or I don't like your social values. So it kind of has some deep meaning for us, but it's not illegal what they're doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it can feel pretty threatening, and our goal is to do everything that we can to control them and get them down underneath our grip so that they're behaving like we do and thinking like we do. Because if they win the vote, that means I don't win the vote. I don't get my way. And that can really rub us the wrong way. There's also, in that belief, there's also the truth. And it's hard to see when you're in that kind of energy, but the truth is, there's only one of us here. And whether we want to believe it or not, the truth is that the energy that I'm holding against them, I am also holding for myself. That's why, have you ever noticed how when you get upset with someone else, your body gets sick? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah. So that's just another example of, the form of energy, the frequency of energy that we use to resist other people, to blame them, shame them, all of those conflicting types of emotions will wreak havoc on our body simply because there's only one presence here. And at the very foundation of it all is a spiritual essence, but we actually direct that spiritual essence because it's just energy. And we're directing that spiritual energy with our thoughts and our feelings and our beliefs. So if our beliefs are, they've got power over me, I'm sending out a fearful energy that my body picks up and starts to respond in like kind. And then when the conflict gets really bad, when they accuse you wrongly, when they lie about you, when they steal something from you, maybe not big enough for it to be a crime, but still a pretty raw occurrence between you and someone else, immediately we go to, well, now what am I going to do? Where's my resources going to come from? And this is a chance for us to open our mind again, but we're terrified that we're going to lose all of our good when we do that. Now, an option in this is when they are behaving that badly, it's a chance for us to just get quiet and ask ourselves, where are they coming from? Who are they? What kind of life have they been living since childhood? What kind of pain have they been carrying? Is it possible that they're projecting out to you because there's so much pain in them they can't take it anymore, so they make it all about you? And that's our chance to either take that on ourselves or to put it in perspective from that highest point of view. Trust that you don't have to carry the anger about them, even if they've got it wrong. Even if they're trying to make it look like this is your problem. You don't have to carry the anger about this. I came across, somebody I think posted this on Facebook this week. It was a video of Maya Angelou speaking like a 30-minute essay, and I just grabbed the first few lines. But I highly recommend that you go to YouTube and you look for something, I'm guessing it's her channel, but the title of it is How to Never Get Angry or Bothered by Anyone. Definitely want to look that up. It's just so clear cut, very not simple, but clear on how to see what's going on between you and the other person. So let me just share the first few lines. There's a place within you that the world cannot reach unless you open the door. And most of us at some point have handed over the key. We let their noise become our anger. We let their ignorance become our burden. We carry words that were never meant to grow roots in us. And in doing so, we give our peace away piece by piece. But what if you could keep your peace no matter the storm? What if you could walk through every room, every insult, every misunderstanding, and still be grounded like a mountain unmoved? This is not just a lesson in silence. This is a guide to power. Power, where does that come from? Giving up, not yelling and screaming back at them. That doesn't sound like power. But think about it here. One of the great questions when you're up against someone like this and you're waking up for a minute and realizing, hold on, I don't have to take this. I don't have to absorb it into my heart. The next question could be, what is the missing resource here? Start with what's the missing resource for me? Well, not me, you. What is the missing resource for you? You might think they're going to potentially take my good, but then the question is, are they my source of good? You might think that they are the ones that are going to control your well-being, but the question is, are they my source of power? Do they have power? How important is it that we keep remembering to separate ourselves from misbehavior, ego behavior, and what is our divine potential? We do not have to settle into that kind of behavior, nor do we have to take it personally, because they are not the provider of our good. And they have no power over us. Even, I can say this freely because it's not happening to me, and others of you might roll your eyes, but I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this. Even if what we might call the worst happens, somebody injures our body, or somebody makes us so mad that we wind up in jail, has your power been stolen? No. And if you can understand that, if you can truly get a grip on your true power, which is wisdom, which is creativity, which is faith, which is strength, which is divine will, which is understanding, which is release and let go, when you can truly move into that power, it doesn't matter where you are at the time. The walls can come tumbling down. We can watch that happen if we have enough faith in this process. But it does help not to go in and fight first and then find that out later. Let's see if we can get it cart before the horse here. How is it that I can establish myself in the one power so that I don't let this stuff overtake me? There's also something to do in this case of conflict. I mean, if we really want to be honest with ourselves, do I have some responsibility in this argument? Did I play a part in this? Is there something that I need to apologize for or change my own habit of being? Let's face it, when conflict happens, often it's a two-sided issue. So you are smart enough, you've got the divine mind within you, you're going to know what the difference is. What is yours to do? So, one of the main realms in our life where we can practice open-mindedness is when we find ourselves in difference, pretty strong difference, even conflict with another person. But there's also opportunities to do this in order to allow our spirits to grow. Keep in mind that that's the reason you showed up here this morning. You may not know that, but you showed up this morning, you showed up in this body, you came to planet Earth as a spiritual being, because this is the only place that you can come and find these challenges that will strengthen your soul. There's no way in the spiritual dimension where you're going to run into conflict. Everybody's just love and bliss. But when you come here and you start to find threats and limitations, boy, does your ego get worked up. And you believe some pretty rotten things about what could happen to you. All the while, your higher self knows, that can't touch me. But we live here in this body with this ego, and it has a lot to say. That's why we came here, so that we would bump into each other, we would have these conflicts, but then we would not get sucked in and pulled down and buried. We would keep opening up our mind to higher truths, divine potential, greater possibilities. And this sometimes takes a while. So if we're in one of those situations where it's not really a hateful argument going on, but this person just keeps showing up in your life, pushing a button or asking you to do something that you don't want to do, maybe that's the moment to use words in your mind like, well, this is curious. This is interesting. This is for my growth. Have you ever noticed that same person keeps showing up in your life over and over and over again with that same ability to push a certain button? But they're different people, their faces are different, but it's the same energy, it's the same challenge that they're bringing to you. You might consider if this is my spirit trying to teach me something. Is this my soul calling me into something higher? How about seeing that what's being exchanged here is an idea that is for you and not against you? I mean, a lot of times our cause of resistance is because they're asking us to be a certain way or do a certain thing that we just don't like to do. But what if that thing you don't like to do really would grow you? If it keeps showing up on your plate, I would encourage you to take a look at it. And ask yourself, why is it that I'm resisting this? Why does this particular thing or type of person rub me the wrong way? What's my belief about them? And what could be open to me that I could try in a new way? Am I willing to do that and take that risk? You're here to grow, my darlings. I know how much we love hearing that. But just keep your mind open when someone shows up and says, hey, you want to take that 10-mile hike? That's a door closing. Or, okay, how about if we take 1 mile hike? Yeah, just keep trying. See what feels right to you. And then the next arena where we can practice open-mindedness when we're in difference with other people is to just be a presence of help for them. I'm sure everyone in this room has run into someone who's having a bad day and they're taking it out on you, when you really had absolutely nothing to do with creating their bad day. Can you relate? Does that sound familiar? Has nothing to do with who you are or what you said. They just have so much irritation in them today that they've got to get it out, and you seem to be right in front of them. So here's a chance to be of help, to open your mind. Instead of getting defensive and taking it personally, this is where you stand in your power. You know that spirit is your source of good, so it doesn't really matter whether they like me or not, or whether they think I'm, harmful to them when I know that I'm not. I don't have to defend myself. I know who I am in spirit, but maybe I could open my mind to see how I could be of help to them. What do they need in this moment? Maybe it's just compassion. I had a really good friend when I lived in California for probably 20 years, and this person got married, and their spouse turned out to be someone who was always criticizing them. either right in front of them or right in front of me or right in front of both of us. And it just hurt my soul to hear her talking badly about him. And he was the kind of person that just wouldn't stand up for himself or correct her in any way. And I would just get madder and madder and madder. And finally, this was years that this would go on. Finally, one time she and I were together and he had just left. And she immediately went into complaining about him, about one of his bad habits. And it was almost like it was my fault because she knew I was going to stand up for him. It was like she was accusing, defending herself for making these judgments. And suddenly I just went, I get that. I so understand that. That's hard to be with, I can imagine. I'm not really sure what it is behind that behavior for him. I'm guessing there's something there that he needs that we haven't quite figured out yet, but I would love it if we could help him with this, although it usually winds up, and I started doing this therapy session for him when he's not even in the room, but she just got very quiet, her eyes opened really big, and it was like, ding, she gets me. She heard me. I can relax now. And that's kind of what happened. When you show compassion or you just offer a listening ear, they can afford to bring the walls down and maybe even move on. Maybe they don't need to talk about it ever again, just so long as you offered a listening ear. It's safe to do that. I don't say diss the other person. I don't say start bad-mouthing them, but you know what I'm talking about when it's like, I hear you. It sounds like, and boy, just take nonviolent communication as a course or read the book by Marshall Rosenberg. It gives you very simple instructions on how to feed back to people. I think what I'm hearing you say is this. Is that right? Does that make you feel this? Until you not only feel like you understand them better, but they feel understood better. This can go a long way. That open-mindedness with compassion. It can go a long way. And always, these choices that we make, when we found them on rock, remember the scripture we talked about a while back where Jesus was telling us to pay attention to his words? That's like building your house on rock. In the same way, if we regularly build our house on rock based on spiritual principles, then no matter what comes our way, whether it's conflict or an opportunity to learn or just trying to be helpful, you've got a solid foundation of spiritual principles underneath you that will support you in the process. Your good will never run dry. And just because your point of view is different from them doesn't mean that you can't both have them without both of you getting what you need. Not probably from each other, but allowing each other to have their preferences is huge. Because our natural state is connection. Our natural energy is love. And if we can live from our natural state, then whatever happens between us and them will wind up being a healing experience rather than more conflict. Yes, every single one of us see the world differently. We were designed that way by the divine mind to be unique. And at the same time, there's only one spirit here. So, am I willing to open my mind to hear other thoughts, to see how I can be of help, to see if I've contributed to this in some way that I might want to take responsibility for, to see if there's something that I'm misunderstanding, that I need more information for? I mean, one of your most challenging responses to somebody when they start going in for you is, tell me more. Did you just feel the hair stand up on the back of your neck? Tell me more is one of the greatest ways to open minds, is because they hear that you're hearing them. They hear that you're willing to hear even more. And you can afford to do that. You can take this interchange because you know they're not your power and they're not your source. That no matter how they respond to you or what they end up thinking about you, you are still provided for. You are still the very essence of the divine. Nothing and no one can stand between you and that truth, unless you do. If you're always so busy about what's in it for me, why should I do that unless I get something out of it? They're going to feel that. They're going to know that. But if we're here to grow and fulfill our purpose, you might just try saying things like, what can I offer here that doesn't necessarily benefit me? Yikes, there's a challenge. In the middle of this mess, what do I have to offer that would benefit them that doesn't have to benefit me? Now, my hunch is if you're brave enough to do that, you will find it will benefit you anyway. Because you cannot possibly give into someone else, knowing our connectedness with one another, without getting it back, getting your good back. So if we would just trust that we can open our hearts and minds and let this process happen for us, we will discover that there's a lot more here for us than we think. Christian Sundberg was one who kind of had an aha awakening to his life before he came into the body. Remember him? We studied his book, A Walk in the Physical. So he says, your true power does not lie in your ability to mold circumstances to how you would prefer them to be. Your true power lies in your ability to choose how you will meet your circumstances. Sometimes, physically speaking, you can do nothing at all, and yet you always have the power to meet your experience with, here it is, courage, humility, acceptance, and love. Those are all divine qualities. That power is your true power. For you've come here to do just that, to actually and personally meet your physical context with a high quality of intent. When you do that, you'll be using the counter pressure of the physical world, like lifting weights, as it was intended, and will automatically begin to transcend the challenges of the physical experience. So we don't look to them, we don't build our muscles by fighting back, we strengthen our spiritual muscles by standing in our power, which is always an energy of love and allowing, no matter what your ego thinks of that. Trust this. So there's all kinds of practices here. It's not about being right. It's not about having the best idea. It's not even about having to give up your preferences. I'm not saying that you always have to give up your preferences in order to solve arguments. But just trust that there's enough good for both and that you can allow the other person to have their good. If we can recognize that even more than that, really, to me, the highest ideal in this practice of open-mindedness is to get to love. More than landing on an idea that you both agree with, if your energy can be about creating a sense of love, and here's what love is in this case. It's seeing the good in the other person. It's wanting good for the other person. It's being willing to do good for the other person. It's allowing people to be who they are, to have their own preferences. That is way more important than coming up with some kind of, specific answer to the question where you're okay with it and you're getting what you need. Is love being exchanged here? Because when that happens, everything organizes in harmony for the highest good. So if we can start with that, I want good for you and for me, and I'm willing to do what it takes to get there. We also, have a heart here that will tell us what feels better. Ask the question, and does it feel better to say, you're an idiot? Or does it feel better to say, tell me more? What's your heart say? Does it feel better to be right or to be happy? To be right or to be kind? Your heart will tell you. And keep following that. Keep asking yourself, which is the higher energy? How does my spirit see this? Does it have labels that it's slapping on this person because of the way they look or the way they behave? Is spirit holding a prejudice against them? Of course not. And who am I? Spirit. Who's trying to live in you? Ego. But I'm still a higher power than that, and I'm ready to let that part of myself show. I planned this experience for my growth. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if this person and I got together in spirit before we ever left the spiritual dimension and said, let's get together and have a really whopping, bang-up fight and see if we can't transform it into something of life and love. Okay, I'm in. And so, the person shows up and you've totally forgotten that conversation. But if you can stop in the moment and go, what if? What if I agreed with this person to come in and behave this way because I knew it would drive me nuts? And just see if I can't get to that higher point of view, to open my mind to other potentials here. Are you up for that? Your spirit was, and is, always is, ready to go. Finally, I would say probably one of the quickest ways to bringing the energy down in a good way is to be the first to be open-minded, to be the first. So when they've laid their cards out on the table and that the energy is just a fireball ready to take off, what if you chose to be the one who said, you know, I'd like to understand better what you're saying. Can you tell me a little bit more about what your need is, or help me be more clear? With like no agenda, with no, side glance or anything, but just open and willing to hear. How can you afford to do that? Because you're spirit, because you're eternal, you're infinite, you're pure love. This person is not your source of good. Whether you wind up agreeing or not has no bearing on your good. Can we know that and therefore afford to say, tell me more. Let me see if there's something I can get to that where we both win, or we're able to honor each other, and just see what happens. None of you seem very enthused about this, but I'll give you a chance to just chew on that. Let me finish with this message from an unknown author. Literally, I got this from somebody shared something this week. I don't remember who it was, so I didn't write down the author, but here it is. In a world of division, such moments remind us that humanity is larger than politics, opinions, or debates. What matters most is the bond, not the argument. We can disagree without disconnecting. When we honor each other beyond ideas, we create space for growth. Different opinions sharpen our understanding, while kindness preserves the bridge between us. That is wisdom in action. And I would throw in, that is love in action. Yeah. So what matters most is the bond, not the argument. Let's protect the bond and see if we can come to some kind of solution or resolution. But even if we have to go our separate ways and do separate things and be for different things, let's retain the bond. Because in truth, there's only one of us here. And as soon as we latch onto the consciousness of separation, the walls start to fall down, and not in a good way. Let's take some time in the quiet. What I'd like to do in meditation today is practice that heart math process, because the core of it is love. The energy of it is love. And it's a wonderful tool to use in meditation to see if you can tap into what your higher self has to say about this. But first, we shift our energy to love. So I'll invite you to close your eyes. And you actually might just want to take a minute to think about some issue that you have been feeling divided on with someone else. It doesn't have to be like a major lifelong issue, but could be somebody in the news, could be family, could be somebody you work with. Just see if you can come up with one thing that you disagree on. Pretend like you got your cell phone and you're going to take a picture of that issue, that person, and set it on the shelf now. Set it aside, out of sight. Turn your attention inward to where your heart space is. Take a deep breath through your heart. Imagine that place at your center as the very doorway to the fullest part of love and the fullest part of spirit. Breathe again through your heart. Feel your connectedness to spirit. Feel your body relaxing. And with your attention in your heart, bring to mind someone that you care about, someone that you love being with, or some beautiful place in nature where you always feel uplifted when you're there. Feel that very joy coming back to you as if you're with that person or you're in that place. Just rest there for a few moments, feeling that goodness, that love, that appreciation. Keep bringing yourself back to that. You feel your energy rising, warming. Coming back to that person or that location, maybe even a pet. You're filled with warm fuzzies. And as you're present in this beautiful energy, this frequency of love and appreciation, just ask your spirit, your higher self, when I think about that situation with that other person, what is the most effective response to them or to this situation? Just listen. If you need to come back to that higher energy of appreciation, do that for a moment. And back to the question, what's the most effective response to this difference? Just notice if you're having a specific feeling in your heart, a direction, an idea, a picture, maybe even words to share. This is the peace we can find from the energy of love, knowing we are safe. It's safe to love. It's safe to give. It's safe to listen. If we haven't quite landed on an answer, a result, we just trust that we can ask again later, knowing that Spirit is always ready to show us the way. And trusting in this moment, right now, we can let go and let love. I let go and I let love. And all things work together for good. And now I allow it to be. And so it is. Amen.